So how do we understand ego and take charge is a very important learning. But you might ask that, Yukti, as much as I understand that I'm a very small part of the universe, I still need to live in this world. And if I have this learning, which I'm grateful for, and others don't, for them it could be absolute bliss that they're not aware of this and they can continue operating from their ego and they will walk over me and they'll consider me to be a doormat if I don't stand up for myself or if I don't push them back when I get pushed. You see, I need to use my ego to protect myself. And I absolutely get that concern. And that's when it becomes important for us to distinguish between ego and self-esteem. What is ego and what is self-esteem? When are you standing up for yourself? And when are you standing in the face of people? When are you saying something to protect your core? And when are you saying something to attack the other person? There is a very, very thin line between the two. And hence it's important for me to bring your attention to that and help you decipher where you are on an ego play and where are you working with self-esteem. I want to take you back to the whiteboard where I want you to draw two axes. The y-axis is your ego and the x-axis is your self-esteem. Now, because these are two axes, there is a high and low to it, right? So this is the lower end and this is the higher end of the axis. Let us divide it into 4 quadrants. Now, the place where our self-esteem is low and ego is also low is where we are treated as a doormat, right? When we are very low on our self-esteem and very low on our ego is when people can treat us as a doormat. I take your point, absolutely. But when the self-esteem is low and the ego is off the roof, which means internally I don't respect myself much. Internally I don't think myself to be an achiever at all. In fact, I think I'm a bit of a loser, right? So my esteem is very, very low. But I keep that strong face in front of people to impress them, to fit in, or for whatever reasons that makes me feel that I won't survive if I don't do this. That's where ego can become dangerous. It's a danger to ride on this horse when you don't have enough substance within you. It's when your self-esteem is high and your ego is low. That's where humility can come in. This is when you are humble. And for a leader, it is a very, very important trait to have. Humility is a trait of a leader. Humility is when you are aware of your strengths, but you don't feel the need to show it to people. You're aware of what makes you who you are, but you don't need to rub it into people's face. You don't need to throw it out on others. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. You just
As much as I hate to interrupt that, it's time for us to get started with our Leadership Satsang session today. What you were enjoying a while back was a glimpse from one of the modules of this program we call as ULM, a 1-year self-discovery journey, which is now reincarnated into Swadhyay. So that's the new name for this program. Why Swadhyay? Because Swadhyay is the study of self. And if you haven't yet invested your time, effort, and money in studying the self, then whatever else you're studying will have little or no meaning. So many congratulations to those who have already graduated from ULM, and they understand very well that you never graduate from this course because you never stop learning about yourself. In fact, one lifetime is way too short to really know the I, the you, the self. And hence the need to be on this path of self-discovery. So I hope you find yourself ready for it one day. And when you do, please reach out to me. You know how to. being here for the satsang sessions is also a good start in that direction. So thank you so much for being a part of Leadership Satsang all this while. I am kind of thinking of taking a pause. Maybe by end of this month, we will take a little pause and resume with maybe a new format, new energy, right? Something different, while the essence of it will always be this beautiful blend of leadership and spirituality. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Mendirata. Welcome once again to today's Leadership Satsang. So, on confession, today, for the very first time in all these 153 episodes that we have done so far, I didn't feel like coming up. I didn't feel like connecting live today. I'm being very, very honest because I don't know how to be in any other way. I didn't want to do anything. I was so engrossed with the strategy work that we are doing right now, and it's just so intense that getting myself out of that space and jumping into this session wasn't something I felt like doing. And that's when I realized that we need to walk the talk and we need to go beyond how we feel. We need to get up, dress up, and show up. So here I am showing up for the session and not finding an excuse to escape. But honestly, hand on my heart, I did think about it. I did think about it. It's just one of those days. I'm sure you've experienced that too. Have you? Just give me a yes, I have in the comments when you do love what you do and this one thing you love a lot. But then there are times when you don't want to do even that. So it's just one of those days for me. I hope you understand, and I just wanted to come out clean, so I'm sharing it with you all, which means that we should probably get into a little longer chanting today, if that's okay. We know we're here to talk about this lack of ownership our teams feel, why your team doesn't think like an owner. That's the topic I've decided to touch upon today. And I will deliver as promised. But I need to be here with you completely. So more than you being with me, today I want to make sure that I'm here with you as well, just 100%. So please support me and dive in for this chant. We're going to chant Om 10 times. Yeah? All right. Thank you so much. Sit straight, please. Spine straight. Relax your shoulders. Okay, completely relaxed. I'm pretty much saying this to myself right now. So let's do this together. Close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in. And breathe out. Breathe in again. And out. Okay, with the next breath in, we will chant Om 10 times. I'll keep the count for you. Make sure you feel the vibration of every chant to the extent possible. Take a nice deep breath in. Om. Om. Shanti. 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 And whenever you're ready, please rub your palms together, gently placing them on your eyes and face and neck and shoulders and your entire body, and slowly come back. And as you do, tell me in the chat, how was your day? How are you feeling in this moment? Are you here 100%? Morning, I felt that to go to gym, but finally I went today. That's so good, Indira, and wonderful. We go beyond our feelings, right? That's why we say leadership is not easy. It's not as if we always feel like doing the right thing, quote unquote, but we always ensure that we go beyond just how we feel and we show up for the commitments that we make, even if those commitments are to yourself. In fact, more so if these commitments are to yourself, because you are who you are when no one's watching, isn't it? Right? So I'm so glad you did that. Yeah, wonderful, Surendra. We learned this from you. That's nice. Sometimes just showing up is the great thing. I know, Surendra, I was just thinking, all right, what are the three ways to drive that ownership with the team? Do I really want to share that today? Or can we just open this space and just like be, here, like in the real sense of the word? This is how I'm feeling. Tell me, how are you feeling? How was your day? How's your life? I would love to know a little more about that. And of course, I understand that as leaders, as business owners, it's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge to not get the kind of support we want. After all, one person cannot pull the show, right? You start your own business also with a lot of passion, and you there to make a difference or make a lot of money, whatever the purpose might be, and it's all okay. Whatever is the purpose is all right, but none of it can be done and achieved by yourself. We do need people by our side. We do need them to take a part of the ownership to get that result, to hold their piece of the jigsaw so that we can achieve that bigger picture. And it doesn't always happen, isn't it? So before I share some thoughts on that why is there that lack of ownership, I'm curious to know, what are some of the indicators of lack of ownership that you identify? So, what is the topic again? Why your team doesn't think like an owner? What makes you think that they're not thinking like an owner? Let's have that in the comments. What about their behavior, action, right? Attitude makes you feel that they're not thinking like an owner? And so the question, why are they not thinking like like an owner of this company or this team? So what are some of those indicators of lack of ownership? Give that to me in the comments. Now, feeling good and looking forward to seeing you in satsang. Yeah, thank you so much. Likewise, that's what brings me here. Trust me, that's what brings me here. Okay, tell me, what are some of the indicators that you notice when you experience this lack of ownership from the team? Then it'll make sense for us to discuss together and explore, why is it happening like that? Why the team is not thinking like an owner, and what is it that I can do to help them take that ownership? Blaming others. That's a good one, right? So when you find them blame other people, they are not taking that ownership, that responsibility for their part of the deal. Yeah, that's a good one. Maybe skill problem. So Bharti, what you were telling me is the रीजन, तो आप ये बोल रहे हैं कि शायद स्किल कम है इसीलिए वो ओनरशिप नहीं ले पा रहे, तो ये तो हुई वजह, ये दिस कुड बी अ पॉसिबल रीजन. आई एम सेइंग व्हाट मेक्स यू फील दैट दे आर नॉट टेकिंग द ओनरशिप. वो कौन सा इंडिकेटर है, वो कौन सा बिहेवियर है या एक्शन है जिसको देख के आपको लगता है कि देखो यहाँ पर लैक ऑफ ओनरशिप है. व्हाट इज दैट, राइट? सो फॉर for someone it is, I think inchura says, when people start blaming others, that is an indicator of lack of ownership. They will say yes to everything. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Surendra, very nice thought there. Yeah, so they say yes to everything because you know what, it doesn't matter. When it doesn't matter, you just say yes to everything. And that could also be an indicator of lack of ownership. Very interesting. Sometimes waiting for manager to remind them, now we are talking, Bharti, right? That they will just sit until somebody sets them into motion again, right? When somebody comes reminding them that, hey, you know what, you were supposed to do this, like a follow up, which you expect your line manager to do, only then will you get into the action mode. Possible, not taking responsibility, looking at the clock all the time. Yeah, Madhvi, absolutely right. It's 6 kab bajenge, 6 kab bajenge, or 8 kab bajenge, whatever is that time. Yeah, so they're just waiting that the clock ticks and I pick my bag and I leave. If the remote, then they think no one is watching them. Yeah, so if they work remotely, that's what you mean. So if they're not in the same city, they're not under the same roof, same office में नहीं है, किसी और city से काम कर रहे हैं या अपने घर से काम कर रहे हैं, because nobody is watching, they don't do what they're expected to do, and that makes you feel यार ये लोग ownership नहीं ले रहे हैं काम का, है ना? Unwilling to upskill and learn. Unwilling, that's an important word there. Just not willing. You're providing all the support. You're telling them that you will be part of this development plan. Let's make it together. Let's support you with this. But they're just not willing to learn. And if somebody is not willing to learn, can we make them learn anything? Absolutely not. Please don't even try, and don't waste your precious time and effort doing that, because it's futile. It's futile till the other person is willing. And when I say that, I talk specifically for adults, because you see, children probably don't have the understanding, wisdom, and maturity to make decisions for themselves. They need a little bit of nudging, right? I won't say pushing, but they do need nudging. Adults, they're very well aware. There is maturity in place. They make those decisions for whatever reason, okay, which creates unwillingness to do a few things that we might think they should do. But who are we to decide a should for anybody? Isn't it? But as a leader, we demand that, because our productivity and performance is a function of their productivity and performance. That's how it is. That's how the structure is set up, right? When people at this level do what they're supposed to do, then people at the higher level achieve what they're expected to, and then they become the input for the next level's output, and that's how you kind of go up and achieve that bigger vision purpose of the organization. So now that we know what lack of ownership looks like, let's look at the question on how to create that. So why your teams don't have that ownership? I'm putting out some possibilities, and feel free to add a few in the chat. Like I said, let's just chill and talk today. Okay, that's where I am right now. So let's just do that. Let's just talk it out. Why would they feel like that? Why don't they feel like an owner? But what comes to my mind is, they don't feel like an owner, maybe because you never stop acting like one. Because you are an owner and you behave like one all the time, it doesn't make them feel that they have any part of the ownership. And I don't mean equity here, okay? I don't mean shares. I mean that sense of control. As a leader, as a business owner, when you have that tight, vehement sense of control, others might feel so controlled by you that they might feel they have no control at their end, right? So they will do what they're asked to do. And that's when they start thinking on those lines that, I'm paid this much, itne mein itna hi milega, itna hi kaam hoga, itne ghante hi hoga. All those things come into the picture. Why? Because they probably don't feel that they have any part of the ownership of this place. Because the owner, who is actually the owner, continues to behave like one all the time. And now you might talk in your defense to say, hey, you know what, only if I had a choice. I don't have a choice. I don't want to be the sole owner, but guess what? Nobody else is jumping in, so I'm holding the fort. Well, that might be true. But just for the next 10 minutes, and while we are in this session together, can you like take 10 steps back and look at yourself as an observer to be sure if this is the case or not? Am I acting like a full-time solo owner or leader, even when I don't need to? Are there times when I could share that sense of ownership with people, but I'm not realizing because I'm so much in a habit to be the owner all the time? It's also a habit, right? Because you've kind of been on that rut for so long. You just keep behaving like that. You could be the loudest on the floor. You could be the one who asks questions and answers on their own. You could be the one looking around and asking 10 questions so that people keep moving from one point to another in their process and their responsibilities. They're used to getting pushed. They're used to getting pulled. They're used to being asked. They're used to the follow up. All these are the habits that we have created for them, whether by choice or by compulsion. But because these are all existing habits, these habits need to be looked at carefully as habits instead of creating this as a complaint at a personality, identity, or attitude level for your employees. I hope I'm not going too fast and you're understanding what I'm saying. Let's take an example. If Yukti is an employee in your organization, instead of making it an identity saying Yukti is a lazy person and she likes to do bare minimum till you push her to do it, can I look at it differently? Because that's what we do in satsang sessions, right? Just change the perspective. Just this is a safe space. What's the harm? We can change the perspectives. And if we choose to, we can go back to the old habits, whatever works for you, right? But for now, let's just play around a little bit with this perspective and say, okay, can I just look at the situation from this side and see, so what are some of the habits that Yukti has picked up in the last 1 year, 10 years that we worked together? And how many of these habits are supported by me and my action? Because I do A, she does B. There's a pattern here. Or when I don't do A, she doesn't do B. So there is a pattern that is somewhere triggered by me. There will be a few patterns that Yukti has of her own. Okay. But then there'll also be patterns which will be led by you and followed by your employees or your team members. Identify those patterns where you are the trigger and break those patterns. See what about your own actions can change. What about your own behavior can differ so that it doesn't create that pattern, follow-up, reaction from your team members. What if I don't follow up? What if I step back and I announce that I'm going to step back? These are the results that you're expected. This is the reason why these results are important. And by the way, today I was taking a session on goal setting for a very prestigious organization, and they were all HODs of all the departments there. And we were talking about goal setting beyond SMART goals. And one very important part of goal setting is to bring in that sense of ownership. Right? Because you can set all the goals if that you like, and whatever you may want to put on paper saying we're going to step on the moon and we are going to pluck the stars and we're going to conquer planets. You could write what you like. But who's signing up on that? Like, who's signing off on the work and the effort that will be required to do all of this? Because you know what, whether you like it or no, goal setting cannot be an activity that is driven top down. It's not a document that can just come to you saying, okay, here are the goals for 2026. Go ahead, all the best. Tell me what support you need. Doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It cannot work like that. I cannot have a goal that is given by somebody else. The goal has to be mine. Otherwise, it's not my goal. What does that mean? It means we need to get into a little bit of a conversation here. And yes, the bigger picture remains the same. We're not saying that we're going to, land up at a different destination depending on your mood or mine. We're not saying that. We're saying, yeah, okay, we're here and we want to go there. All of us see that final destination, we see that. But these are the goals that I see us leading to that. What do you think? Right? And as I see these goals and I put these goals down on paper, This is the reason why these goals are important. The purpose, the why. Why is this important? Once that is communicated, which, by the way, in my experience of having dealt with so many organizations and all the senior leaders within these companies, very, very few people, single digit percentage of people bother to share the purpose of goals that they set for their teams. And that's the reality. So I really want you to see if you belong to that bigger percentage of people who are telling your team members what the goals are. You replace goals with expectations. You replace expectations with projects. You replace projects with tasks that they're supposed to do. Put anything in that blank. Ultimately, when you are telling somebody to do something, without giving them a reason to do it, expecting them to be fully committed to it is a tall ask. It is. Right? The other person has to be really motivated or hungry or desperate. Till they are not desperate anymore. You have them till then. That's a very short window anyway. And very, very small percentage of such people. Thankfully so. Why should people work out of desperation? They should work out of motivation, innovation, creation. That should be the reason, right? Those are the kind of people you want to hire, isn't it? Right? Not the kind of people who will do anything for money. Those are not the right reasons for you to have anybody as a part of your team anyway. So how do you create that ownership at a goal level, at a task level? Is by first sharing the why, sharing the purpose of the goal or the task every single time. It might look like a real work to do, but then that's your only work. That's your only job. Your only job is what to get the work done right. If you don't do that job well, you'll end up doing the work yourself. Isn't it? Don't you find yourself there? Give me in the chat if you find yourself getting stuck with the doing. And, we can call it as firefighting. We can call it as holding the fort. We can call it as avoiding mistakes. I'd rather do it myself. Right? So you could give some very convincing answers. But the point is, if you find yourself firefighting all the time, there is something terribly wrong with the way you're leading the team right now. You need to get out of the execution. Only then will you have the bandwidth to support the team for how they want to be supported. It's very easy to say, I'm here for your support, but where is the bandwidth to support? Because you're just so busy doing things yourself. So how can you possibly support? Like, you don't have the bandwidth to do it, right? So you have to stop being a doer. That's when you get things done. Now, how do you get things done? Is by ensuring that people understand why they're doing what they're doing. That is step number 1. Are we crystal clear about it? Yeah, give me CCC in the comments, please. Are we crystal clear that, okay, the first thing is, no matter how big or small the task is, I need to attach a why to this. We need to do this because. We need to do this so that this and that can be achieved. So that's a given. That's the first thing we need to do. Make sure that we're giving them a reason to do what they're supposed to do. Now we can ask our teams a few questions. 3 questions I'm sharing with you, add as many as relevant, right? So you could ask them, how do you define success of this task? You may want to write this down, right? How do you define success of this task? How do you know that this task is done well? How would you define that? What is your indicator for success for this task? Second, what support do you need? And as I've said about support always, it's important to remember that we cannot support people the way we want. We support people the way they want to be supported. So please do not make an assumption on how people want to be supported. Ask, what support do you need? The third question is, what risks are you able to see? What risks do you foresee? What could possibly go wrong? And how can we be better prepared for that? And you will get all sorts of versions. Well, I tell you what, I think the biggest risk with this task is I need some information from Inchara, and you know what? She's not going to give it to me because it's not her priority. I think we're going to get stuck there. Or I think we're going to get stuck with this particular supplier who's always late with the supplies. So that's another bottleneck we have in the system. If we are aware of those bottlenecks and we have always got stuck there, it's important that you find ways to work on that and open that part of the process up. That's where leadership comes in. That's your job of the entire deal. Right? Therefore, this conversation is important. And then comes some sort of a ownership statement, if I may call it that way, right? So it could sound like, something like this, that I commit to do this task by this time, and we can review the progress on this task in a week's time, in a month's time, in 3 months' time, whatever is the periodicity, right? So this is what I'm going to do by this much time, very specific task, at a very clear, specific timeline, and we should touch base to check on the progress. And this is like our, you know, our checkpoint where you can come back and check on me to see if we are on track or not, which means you're also, in a way, keeping yourself out of the micromanagement situation. I know for a fact you don't enjoy doing it, even if you feel compelled to do it. But the reason why you are compelled to do it is not so much dependent on these people you're micromanaging. It could have a lot to do with you as well. And you can hate me for it. But when you are in my proximity and you come up with whatever challenges you're facing in life, please allow me to first help you see yourself in the mirror. Because that's in our control, isn't it? What I can do and what I cannot do. I find it very liberating. I find it so liberating to just look at whatever problems are there in life and then find out what is it that I can do to deal with that situation. Maybe not everything, maybe just one thing. But that one thing is in my control, and that just feels so good because there's so much security and knowing and certainty in what I can do. And what I can't do, I can't do. What I can do, I must do. Isn't it? So as you look at this lack of ownership, I want you to ask yourself, can I stop being a full-time owner myself? Can I involve my team members in even goal setting and not just other decisions that will follow? And then, of course, can I bring them into some critical decisions which will impact their life in some meaningful way? Right? If it's going to increase their workload, if it's going to stretch their working hours, if it's going to create a bigger ask from them, can I involve them in that process? Because when people feel heard is when real ownership is created. Ownership cannot be created when you demand that they should listen to what you're saying. Ownership can only be created when people who are expected to take that ownership are heard. They are given that space to speak up, whether it is for the support they need, or it is for a disagreement on the goals or the tasks that you're prescribing, or about the risks that you refuse to see, but they are the ones dealing with those bottlenecks. They are the ones who have to handle those risks. Are you willing to give them that space? Because only then they will bring in that sense of ownership that you are craving for. Please remember, the comfort you enjoy in your life, the titles and positions that inflate your ego, is not what they are enjoying where they are at this point. So as they look at you, they have a lot more reasons for you to take that ownership which you expect them to take. But what makes a group of people a team is when ownership is shared. That sharing is a responsibility of a leader. And you ensure that by ensuring that every member of the team feels included in important decisions that you make, important goals that you set for yourself, and most importantly, the reason, the purpose behind doing whatever you're doing and asking them to do. That's perhaps when we will create a possibility for every member of the team to take ownership to achieve that bigger picture. That's all the time we have today. I hope this made sense. I hope this was useful. If that's true, please put out some comments and I would love to read them and also understand from you what are the other challenges that you're facing in life. And maybe in some form or format, I'll touch upon that as well. Also mention your biggest takeaway, aha moment, light bulb moment, whatever you want to call it, in the chat. I would love to know what stood out for you in our session today. Next week is going to be our open Q&A, and that might be the last session for this particular phase. I'm going nowhere. I'm just thinking of taking a little bit of a pause. Okay, we will resume, but we here right here till the end of this month. So I will see you next week, same time, same place, with another important insight in the space of leadership and spirituality. Till then, please take very good care of yourself. Thank you so much. God bless you.